Hello folks, I'm going to talk to you about DXOMark's new camera, the DXO One, and how a lot of people that know what they're seeing are calling this enormously dishonest. Let's give you an analogy. Let's just imagine that Toyota is the only company in the world that has a website that rates all cars and their performance. But they also happen to produce a car. And let's say they make a tiny little junky car that's, just a little teeny little thing, and it rates far better than, uh, you know, a Humvee as far as performance. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. Let's take a look at the deception, the dishonesty. Now, I told you before that DXOMark, of course, sells software, but now they're actually getting into the camera business. Now, this little thing is going to have the price tag of $600. Okay, $600. But let's read from their own website, and let's see if you find this hilarious or not. The 24.4 bits, great result for camera compact. In fact, the results from this are very similar to that of some of the best DSLRs. The best APS-C sensor score is a very high 24.5 bits achieved by the Nikon D72. Now look at this thing. It's got a lens on it that's basically equivalent of an f5.6. It's actually not even as bright as that, okay? But what it does is it stitches four images together. It's an HDR producing camera. Okay, it's got a tiny little junky lens on it. It attaches to your iPhone. It does have a 1-inch sensor in it. It's a 1-inch CMOS BSI sensor, the same one used in the Nikon One mirrorless cameras. But what it does is that they're actually comparing this camera to a Nikon D7200. Totally irrespective of whatever lens is in front of it, which is ridiculous. This is on their own website. I'll give you the link below. Thanks to its use of temporal noise reduction technology, which is what I've been telling you people about before. Everybody thinks about what a camera produces or what a sensor produces. This is all BS, okay? If you guys think that a sensor produces incredible dynamic range, like the D750 has incredible low light performance, most of that is not the sensor. Basically, all of that is not the sensor. It's the same thing radio astronomy has been using for many years now. It's time elimination compression technology. It's firmware. It's software. What it does is it takes out the low gain, high noise, and it compresses out the time, okay? It's like getting in 90% junk and filtering out that junk, i.e. the noise, with a special filter that's firmware. So the DXO One, they say, is able to provide better color and greater color depth than cameras designed specifically for portrait photography, like the D7200. Oh my God, can you believe this stuff? Oh, here, by the way, today this SuperRAW file can only be read by DXO photo software. Now, what this is, the most dishonest nonsense on the face of this earth, is that this camera takes four pictures, boom, 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 rapid succession. It stitches them all together because they won't tell you this, but I mean, you can see the crummy little lens on the front of the thing. It takes four images and stitches them together. What it does is it creates HDR images. But of course, that's an issue if you got if your subject is moving. So they tell you in fine print near the bottom of the page, because the results of TNR time the TNR can be impacted by motion between frame bursts and by overall lighting condition. The SuperRAW Plus score can vary widely depending on the subject matter and type of photography and shooting conditions. In the very best case, subject is stationary, and the fusion rate, meaning HDR photo stitching, is close to 100%. See what this camera does? It takes four pictures and it stitches them together as one picture. There's no such thing. They're calling it a super raw file. But all it is four images that are stitched together in a special raw file that only their software can read. So you gotta have their software too. They claim to be they actually make a statement, well, we know we produced this camera, but we're being objective. And yet they're comparing this thing to a Nikon D7200? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This company is taking pre-orders starting today and will start shipping in September. DXO's new SuperRAW Plus file format will enable DXO One camera to generate an overall sensor score of up to 85. Oh my god. What is happening is that this tiny little junky lens on the front has no light gathering capabilities, so it has to take 4 shots and stitch them together. And it's stated that it can shoot in RAW or JPEG and has a mode called Super RAW that can take 4 back-to-back images. Yeah, that's how they're actually rating this on. The fusion rate varies greatly depending on the camera or subject motion conditions. If the camera is moving slightly between frames or the subject is, the fusion rate can still be substantial thanks to the digital compensation of the camera motion. That is, most of the pixels can be averaged. However, if there's strong motion in the scene or the camera, such as when the subject is moving or running, the fusion rate will be partial. Yeah, no kidding, right? That's why the test shots of this thing look like HDR images, because that's exactly what they are. They're HDR images. Now, people that know about photography, look at this thing. Please, God, look at this thing. Okay, this is the company that sets itself out as the measurer of cameras and lenses and sensors. I told you before they were selling stuff. They've been selling software for a long time now, okay? You make up your own mind. Don't let me make it up for you. And I'm making some statements of my own here, but you make up your own mind. Now camera's making a now this DXOMark is making a camera. And oh my god, in their own literature they use the word 7200 Nikon D7200. They're saying that it is equal or better than the Nikon D7200. In fact, the results are very similar to those of the best DSLRs. I forget where actually they mention Nikon D7200 again. They do mention it twice. ISO Super RAW capture mode designed specifically for low light photography. This Super RAW file can only be read by DxO software. Oh, here we go. This is where they kind of defend themselves. As with any other camera, DxOMark team has fully evaluated the DxO One in an objective laboratory test, and we will be transparent as possible regarding the science and implementation that enable the DxO One to achieve a score of 85. One stop better than that of the best 1-inch sensor so far. Are you kidding me? I mean, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. Oh, another thing, which is a camera that I have. They make numerous comparisons of this camera with the $700 Sony CyberShot DSC RX100 Mark III. I have that camera. I have that Sony. It's sitting a few feet away from me, the RX100 Mark III. If you think the tiny little lens on this thing compared to that ultra-fast lens on the Sony, which is taking one picture, it's not stitching multiples together. They keep using the Sony CyberShot DSC RX100 on their web, and the link will be below, so you can read this yourself, okay? Please do. They're actually saying that this is equal or superior to the Nikon T7. It hooks onto an iPhone. It's $600. You know what you could buy for $600? Let's just forget about price, okay? Let's just say this was $100, which of course it's not. I mean, to even make the asinine comparison, this is the company that sets itself up to be objective? Are you kidding me? Do you really think that is the case? That little lens stitching 4 shots together into a super RAW file? It's not a super RAW file. It's just your proprietary RAW file that's read by DxO software, okay? Which is fine if they want a proprietary file. No big deal. Nikon does the same thing. You're comparing this to a Nikon D7200? You're not comparing it. You're saying it's equal or superior to the same. Irrespective of the lens that's on the front. I mean, are you kidding me? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. We've evaluated this in objective laboratory. We will be as transparent as possible regarding the science that enables this DxO One to achieve a score of 85. The multiple images are subsequently merged into one new image file with resulting reduction in noise. Oh my god, really? Whoa, that's kind of fascinating. Oh, neat. Oh, that's so cool. Temporal noise. No, this is what they're calling it. It's actually something else. It's SNR compression algorithm. They're calling it TNR. Temporal meaning time, noise reduction. I've been telling you folks about this for a long time, respective of this little crummy camera, which really isn't a camera. It's a multiple image stitching machine. But they ought to call this a sewing machine with the lens. Why should this be called a sewing machine with the lens? Because it is taking multiple images and it's sewing them together. And it's giving you the impression that this thing is putting out output like a D72. Okay, it's $600. Oh, well, that's really cheap. Oh my god, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, they're calling this temporal noise reduction. What it is SNR time compressional algorithms. Nikon uses it, Canon uses it. It is part of their low light, high dynamic range. Okay, now like high pixel densities have smaller photo size. Something that you folks have had a really hard time understanding is, maybe it's because I grew up with ham radio. Okay, I understand this stuff because I understand SNR. I understand that, you know, you got a smaller antenna with less gain. It's got higher noise. You know, you hear that scratching. You're talking about hearing the signal directly in ham radio, by the way. You hear this. You got a bad antenna, and if you got a Yagi antenna, which is high gain, which is the equivalent of a large photo site, you know, you've got very low noise. Now, how Canon, Nikon, everybody else compensates out for these small photo sites on the sensor is by a firmware, the same thing that radio astronomy has been doing for a long time when it's, you know, it's peeping at stuff that's millions and millions of light years away using radio telescopes. It's used in interferometry. It eliminates out the time variable. It eliminates out that noise. It's firmware. It's not the sensor. People think, well, a sensor captures something and then it's recorded on a card. That ain't what happens, baby. Okay, it is passed through firmware that actually improves the signal gain. But this camera, okay, now Nikon and Sony do that with a single image to make it a lot better. But this camera is so bad, I mean, it has to. It's got a tiny little lens on there, not much bigger than an iPhone lens, okay? The way this camera does it is like, well, the noise is really bad on this. So what we do is we take 4 pictures really fast, and then we stitch them together. And that's why we're going to say that this camera is better or equal to an Nikon D72. Oh, are you kidding me? Talk about dishonest. Dishonest! With a capital D, dishonest. You know, just be honest and upfront about it. It's ridiculous. Oh, but we're going to be objective. Okay, you think it is objective for anybody on Earth to be comparing this thing to the D7200? I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Anyway, I hope you folks understand this. So, the company that sets itself up to be the objective benchmark of sensor and lens comparisons is now not only selling software, they're selling cameras. Oh my god, what a coincidence! We're selling cameras now! Oh, but we're going to be objective, so we're going to state that our new little camera shipping in September is equal to a Nikon D7200. Oh, well, that's really logical. I can believe that. Yeah. Oh my god, please. Am I wrong on this? Am I wrong on this? No, folks, I'm not. But anyway, I'm going to give you the links below. You read it and make up your own mind, okay? This is ridiculous.